artists! We're going to move on to day 4 in our interactive sketchbook. And today we're going to talk about 2 different things that artists use a lot: shape and form. Shape is a flat or 2-dimensional closed space. And form is what happens when that shape becomes 3-dimensional. Before we go any further, let's blow all our air out. And take 5 big belly breaths. Big belly in. Out. In. Out. In. And out. In. Out. Last one. In. And out. Let's talk about shape and form. Shape is a flat space enclosed by a line. So think of something like a circle or a square or a triangle. They're all flat. They only have length and width. Now the difference between a shape and a form is what happens when a shape gets high or gets tall. So let me talk to you a little bit in pictures. This is a shape.
Here's another.
So now there are 2 different types of shapes. There's geometric shapes and there's organic shapes. Geometric shapes are shapes that can be defined by math. So like you can measure the edges or the angles and use math formulas to determine the area. These are some examples of geometric shapes. Now, an organic shape is something that you might find in nature. Sometimes it's also called a free-form shape, and it's something that is irregular. Its edges are irregular, it might be curvy and wavy, and you can't put a name on it like circle or triangle or rhombus. These are all examples of organic shapes, and even though they may have recognizable names like hand or leaf or tree, in real life they all measure very differently. Now let's talk about forms. Every shape can have a form. Some of the shapes that have names or are geometric, like circles and squares, also have named forms, like spheres and cubes. But there are also forms for every organic shape as well. They're just an organic shape with that 3rd dimension, not just length and not just width, but also height. So they're not only long and wide, but they're also tall. That's how you can tell the difference between a shape and a form. Let's look at a few more examples.
So here are some examples of shapes and form. On the left, you'll see geometric shapes like triangles and circles. And then below that, you'll see organic shapes, which look kind of like blobs. On the right side, you'll see forms. Actual forms, which are sculptures that you could actually touch, which you could also think of as real forms. And then this word should be familiar to you. Implied forms are below those. Those are drawn. They look 3-dimensional. They look like you could touch and feel all sides of them, but they're actually flat drawings. So just like our implied texture lesson, you can also have implied form.
Shape and form is really fun to explore with, and I'm going to let you create this little sorting game that you can play with little siblings to help them learn shape and form. So if you would grab your packet and you would go to the page, this one, and then finally there are 2 pages after that that have shapes and forms on them, and I want you to grab those too. I'm going to give you directions on how to cut and fold, but remember the basic rule with this little interactive sketchbook is we cut on the solid lines and we fold on the broken lines. So let's see what that looks like. Check it out.
First, cut around the outside edge of both large shapes. Once these are cut out, you're going to glue on the center square. It even says glue this part. Put the glue on there and stick it onto one of the pages of your sketchbook. After that, fold all of the tabs in and glue along the bottom flaps. If this feels hard, join me during live Zoom for directions. Once you've done both envelopes, grab the two sheets that have all the pictures of shapes and forms. Cut them out. Then add them into the right envelope.
You've created two envelopes, and they can be on different pages or on the same page. That's fine. And when you play this game or when you sort these, and you can teach little kids this, so if you have little siblings, which I know lots of you do, you are looking for flat shapes, shapes that are not showing any height to them. Go in the shape envelope. And shapes that have that extra line, that broken line often, it shows that they have height to them, not just length and width, because shapes have length and width, but this also has height or thickness to it. This is going to be a form. So you can go through and sort your shapes and your forms into your envelopes. And also, these are kind of boring, so color them, add some designs. Grab this sheet, a pencil, and a scissor. First, fill in the different boxes with the matching shapes. Geometric on the top, organic on the bottom, or freeform. On the form side, draw those shapes three-dimensionally. You can just add an extra side, or you can do a broken line to show see-through thickness. Do the same with organic forms. Think of things you might find outside. I thought of like a pine cone or an acorn. And some ways that you can show that they're three-dimensional is to do some shading. Darken up one side and it will look three-dimensional. You can also make a form three-dimensional by doing contour lines, which just show the curve of the shape. First, cut out both long rectangles. Remember, cut on the solid lines and fold on the dashed lines. Then do an accordion fold along the dashed lines. That means fold one piece forward, the next piece back, and then the following forward and back, so that you make like a little spring. Bend the tab at the end and glue it into your sketchbook. That way it will open up and show the examples of your shapes and forms. If you have not had a chance to finish this, you can always join us in a live Zoom and I can help you. I hope you've had a wonderful time in this lesson, and I miss you, and like Mrs. Wolf always says, until we meet again, keep art in your heart.